Have you heard about Prospera, the so-called libertarian utopia or Bitcoin city popping up on a Caribbean island in Honduras? It's been making waves, pun intended, and some call it a bold experiment in innovation. Others call it a controversial land grab. Social media is buzzing with posts from supporters and all the conferences they've done. And today we're diving deep into what Prospera is, how it works, its goals, and the drama surrounding it. From Silicon Valley tycoons to Honduran locals, everybody's got an opinion. So let's unpack the facts and get to the heart of this wild story. So what exactly is Prospera? Prospera is a semi-autonomous, quote-unquote, startup city on the island of Roatán, Honduras, operating as a zone for employment and economic development, also known as a ZEDE, Z-E-D-E. Think of it as a special economic zone on steroids, with its own laws, tax system, private security, and even arbitration courts, almost like a mini country within Honduras. Launched in 2017 by Honduras Prospera Inc., a US-based company, it's led by Venezuelan-born CEO Eric Bryman, who call it a quote-unquote poverty relief initiative. The project, backed by big-name investors like Peter Thiel, Mark Andreessen, Sam Altman, and Coinbase's Brian Armstrong, aims to create a business-friendly haven with low taxes, minimal regulations, and a love for cryptocurrency and tech. Located on over 300 acres in Roatan's pristine bay, Prospera markets itself as a hub for entrepreneurs, digital nomads, and innovators. It boasts a 1% income tax, 5% personal income tax, and 1% land value tax, compared to Honduras's 25 to 30% income tax. Businesses can pick from 36 countries' regulatory frameworks or craft their own, and disputes are settled by private arbitrators in Arizona, not Honduran courts. That's what I have in my notes here. Since construction began in 2021, Prospera has built the 14-story Duna residences, where a lot of people stay, the Beta building, and a Bitcoin education center with the island's first Bitcoin ATM. It's also hosted biotech conferences like the 2024 Vitalia event, pushing ideas like quote-unquote making death optional through gene therapies. But it's not all smooth sailing. This experiment has sparked fierce debate. To understand Prospera, we need to rewind to its origins. The idea stems from the charter city concept. This concept was created by Nobel laureate Paul Romer, who pitched special zones with foreign-inspired laws to boost poor economies. In 2009, Honduras was facing a crisis when President Manuel Zelaya was ousted in a military coup after pushing constitutional reforms. The new government, led by Porfirio Lobo, saw Romer's idea as a lifeline for a country where 70% lived in poverty and crime was rampant. In 2023, Honduras amended its constitution to create ZEDEs, Zones for Employment and Economic Development, granting them near total autonomy, including private governance, and tax exemptions under a 50-year legal stability guarantee. Enter Eric Bryman, a wealth fund manager who founded Prospera back in 2017 after buying land on Roatán through companies like Brymont Holding. Backed by Pronomos Capital, a venture capital firm tied to Thiel and Andreessen, Prospera became the first ZEDE to break ground. It's raised over $120 million, with plans to hit $500 million by 2026. The project draws from libertarian thinkers like Titus Gebel, maybe I'm pronouncing that wrong, who envisioned quote-unquote free private cities, where a fixed fee buys life, liberty, and property protections. Prospera's 35-page legal code sets a higher minimum wage than Honduras's, but slashes taxes and regulations, aiming to attract tech, biotech, and crypto startups. By 2025, it claims 2,000 physical and e-residents, with the goal of 38,000 by 2030. So what does Prospera offer? What is the draw of Prospera? For businesses and residents, it's all about freedom and innovation. The eProspera program, inspired by Estonia's e-residency, lets global entrepreneurs set up companies online without moving to Roatán, accessing Prospera's digital infrastructure and tax perks. And in fact, a lot of the same software development team that built Estonia's e-residency program is involved in creating of the software for Prospera. I've seen the software myself behind the scenes, and it's very impressive. Over 200 businesses have incorporated, from staffing agencies to experimental medical centers like MiniCircle, which claims to tackle Alzheimer's. The 2024 Biotech Conference raised $1.5 million for startups, and firms like the Global Alliance for Regenerative Medicine offer stem cell treatments. So there's a lot of things in the medical space that might be hard to do in the US, where the regulatory environment might be better in Prospera. Prospera's Bitcoin-friendly stance as well, despite Honduras actually banning crypto, includes a Bitcoin Academy, QR code tax payments, and general openness to crypto and Bitcoin. For residents, Prospera offers luxury at Pristine Bay, with villas, condos, a golf course, and scuba schools. The Beta building hosts co-working spaces, and Pristine Academy provides Montessori education. And it's a nice building, by the way. I might not be able to throw a photo up of the school, but it looks very well built. Events like Infinita City's pop-up dome draw crypto nomads, while amenities like gyms and pickleball courts cater to an active lifestyle. The Circular Factory uses robots to turn wood into construction materials, showcasing tech-driven development. Prospera claims to employ locals in construction, hospitality, and security, with tons of testimonials praising job opportunities that probably wouldn't exist otherwise, right? Supporters like Tim Draper on X call it, quote, the best place to do business on the planet, predicting it could become the next Dubai. Now, here's where things get messy. Prospera's bold vision has sparked massive backlash. Critics, including President Xiomara Castro, called it a quote-unquote narco regime creation, which is kind of crazy, and a threat to Honduras' sovereignty, which is probably a legitimate concern. In 2009 to 2021, the post-coup government, especially under Juan Orlando Hernandez, who's now jailed in the U.S. for drug trafficking, pushed ZEDEs despite public outcry. Castro, elected in 2021, campaigned on repealing the ZEDEs, arguing they sell off Honduran land to foreign investors. In April 2022, Congress repealed the ZEDE law, and in September 2024, the Supreme Court ruled it unconstitutional, citing violations of quote-unquote in-stone constitutional articles. But Prospera argues its 50-year agreement, protected by international treaties like CAFTA/DR and the Honduras-Kuwait Investment Treaty, keeps it legal. Okay, so they think it's kind of been grandfathered in. The project's tax exemptions means it pays no national taxes, though Roatán's mayor demanded $470,000 in municipal taxes in October 2024, briefly shuttering a Prospera business. Some critics have called it colonial. Some have noted Prospera's $10 billion lawsuit against Honduras, which is 2/3 of the country's 2022 budget. The lawsuit claims the ZEDE repeal scared off investors, and experts say ICSID often favors corporations, potentially bankrupting Honduras. So there's been a bit of a back and forth, and I thought it would be useful to map out Prospera's roller coaster ride. So in 2013, Honduras amends its constitution to allow ZEDEs after the 2009 coup. Paul Romer's charter city idea gains traction under President Porfirio Lobo. In 2017, Eric Bryman founds Prospera, buying Roatán land. Pronomos Capital, backed by Thiel and Andreessen, funds the project. In 2021, construction begins on the Beta building and Duna residences. Prospera gets ZEDE status, raising $90 million. Around this time, people also start campaigning against the ZEDE. In April 2022, Castro signs a law repealing ZEDEs, calling them unconstitutional. Prospera sues Honduras for $10.8 billion at ICSID, citing lost investment. In July 2022, the U.S. State Department warns Honduras about trade agreement violations. In 2023 and 2024, Prospera hosts biotech and crypto events, incorporates hundreds of businesses. They built the Bitcoin Education Center. So lots of expansion. And then in September 2024, Honduras' Supreme Court rules the ZEDEs unconstitutional, but Prospera vows to operate under its 50-year agreement. The mayor demands taxes. In 2025, Honduras moves to exit ICSID, escalating the lawsuit drama. Prospera plans for 30,000 plus residents by 2030, but legal battles loom. The future? Well, if Prospera wins this lawsuit, Honduras could face economic collapse. If Castro prevails, Prospera may shrink or pivot to other countries, such as Guatemala, where it's eyeing new zones. Now, I believe there is an election this year in November of 2025, and that could have a huge impact on the future of the Prospera and other ZEDEs in Honduras. There's another one called Ciudad Morazan as well that we've profiled on this channel in some of our podcast episodes. And maybe this would be a good time to shout out the podcast, the MyLatinLife Podcast. We've done over 200 episodes, and we've had multiple people on from Prospera. We've had Nicholas Anzinger, we've had Joyce Brand, we've had Alex Ugorji, and others from people from Prospera, people from Ciudad Morazan, and other experts on ZEDEs and charter cities. So check out our podcast to hear some of these long-form interviews. You can also explore the libertarian roots by reading Titus Gebel's Free Private Cities or Balaji's The Network State to get the ideology. And there you have it, folks. Prospera is a high-stakes experiment in Roatán, blending Bitcoin, biotech, and libertarian dreams with legal battles and local pushback. It's raised millions and created jobs, but faces accusations as well. As Honduras fights a $10 billion lawsuit, the world is watching. Will Prospera become the next Dubai or a cautionary tale? If this breakdown helped you navigate the hype, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, ring that bell, and we'll see you in the next video.